حي على الفلاح.
React provides a declarative way to manipulate the UI. Instead of manipulating individual pieces of the UI directly, we just describe the different state that a component can be in and switch between them in response to user interaction. You can think of the UI as changing directly in response to user events. To update a component with new data, two things should happen. First, data must be preserved between re-render, and we need to trigger a re-render. Why regular JavaScript variables are not enough? Regular variables do not persist between re-render, and changing them will not trigger a re-render. State variable, on the other hand, provides those two things. It provides a state variable to retain the data between render and a setter function to update the variable and trigger re-render. In React, state is a JavaScript object that stores a component data that changes over time, and whenever it changes, the component re-render. In React, state can store any kind of JavaScript values or JavaScript data type like number, string, and booleans. And these type of JavaScript values are immutable, meaning read-only. Data type like object and array, technically it's possible to change the content of them. However, we should treat them as immutable. What that means is, instead of mutating the object or array, create a copy of it. It also means array methods like push, pop shouldn't be used. Instead, we should use non-mutating methods like filter and map. In React, state management involves storing data in a central location to enable components to share and update state. Local state typically used to store component-specific data. Local state can be passed down to child component via props. Global state stores data needed by multiple components. Hooks are special function. Hooks always start with use keyword first introduced in React 16. Hooks are just a function that allow us to hook into some of React features that were only possible in class component. Features like state and component lifecycle. Hooks has two rules. Only call them at the top and only call them from functional component. UseStateHook allow us to use state in a functional component, takes the initial state as an argument and returns an array of two entries. The first is the current state and the second is a setter function to update the state. Notice we are destructuring the return value. It declares a state variable, and React remembers its current value between re-render. To update the state, call setState. It triggers a re-render. UseState gives us the current state. The primary way to update UI in React is by calling setState function. Calling the setState function does not change the current state in the already executing code. Think of it as a request rather than an immediate command to update the component. Do not modify state directly, and state update may be asynchronous. And now, let's have a look at state management best practices. Lifting the state up, for the most part, you will need to share the state between components. An easier solution is to lift the state up. Deciding what should be state. As a general rule, state should be reserved for data that changes over time and used by multiple components. As a general rule, start with simplest solution for state management, like built-in state management methods like useState before considering third-party libraries. When it comes to React application, state is an integral part of what makes the application dynamic and interactive in the first place. Basically, the UI is a function of the state.